What's up, guys? This is Zach, and I am back with my fifth match of the PBL season. I'm up against Chris and the Dunsparces. Before this match, there was some problems with scheduling, so Chris had to end up bringing a team that he already had from past weeks, which kind of ruined some of his plans, and also ruined some of my plans. I really prepared for a lot of different things that he didn't end up bringing, but it is what it is. So without any further ado, we're just going to jump into this match. So before getting into this match, I told Chris that I was praying to the Hax God, RNGesus, that this is not a haxy match and that we can have a good match. So I lead with my Rotom, thinking I can either pivot with Volt Switch, or I can try to throw out a Will-O-Wisp if Landorus is out. But he goes for a Toxic and misses, so already there's hacks. He misses his Toxic, which is pretty unlucky. Not crazy detrimental to him at this point in time. A Toxic on my Rotom is nice, but not huge. And I send out my Mega Lopunny, and he switches into Tyrantrum. So I'm just going to get my Mega off, and I just went for a return. A high jump kick is resisted by the Moltres, and I thought that a potential switch was Landorus to intimidate me before I got hit off. Obviously I have Ice Punch to follow up, but he might have just got the Intimidate off and then swapped out. But he just comes back into Moltres, and I high jump kick this time, and doesn't kill, but the very first time I come in contact with this Moltres, Flame Body pops, so he gets his 30% Scald Burn chance pretty much immediately. And my Mega Lopunny is injured early. So the Intimidate comes out. This is what I expected him to do in the very beginning. That return does like a little less than 15%, so he gets some leftovers back. So we see leftovers on this Landorus. This is something we've seen before, so I'm going to swap out and bring in Ferric Oxide. Ferric Oxide is not too scared of anything you do. The Earthquakes will kind of hurt, but he goes ahead and predicts that switch, I think, and goes out into Moltres. So good switch on his part. Keeps me swapping, keeps me scared. And he's going to go ahead and roost here, I'm pretty sure. Even if I stayed in, he is faster than me and gets the roost off first, so there was no point in me trying to do anything tricky. I needed to go into my answer. So he sees my answer to Moltres is Suicune. And I imagine he's going to go into Raikou or something here, so what I'm going to do is set up a Tailwind to have some momentum for my team. So I'm going to set up a Tailwind. I've noticed already that Chris is making lots of hard predictions, so I think I'm going to make a quote-unquote dumb play here and stay in Calm Mind. Since I'm faster, I can get my Calm Mind off, and if he's smart enough to just Thunderbolt me straight out, I still only take less than half, I believe. It's still a lot, but I take less than half. What I should have done, so he Shadow Balls me, and it does not so much, but what I should have realized is that I'm so bulky that is actually Specs damage. Since it didn't do so much, I didn't even look into it, but seeing that now, that he showed he was Specs there, actually meant that his Raikou is in trouble, and that's why he switches out here. So, if I would have taken the time to realize that was Specs damage, I might have played it a little bit differently, but at that point I was a little frustrated that we were playing so late. He goes for Thunder Wave and misses again, more hacks. It's really unlucky, so right now he's the unlucky one with hacks, I think. Even though I think my Flame Body Burn was more influential than any of his unlucky turns. But then I missed my Leech Seed, so my Leech Seed makes up for your Toxic miss or your Thunder Wave miss. He goes for the Seismic Toss, takes some Iron Barbs damage, and I knock off. I know this thing's going to have leftovers. That's the only form of recovery he likely has. Unless he has like some kind of rest set. I don't know if Registeel even runs a rest set. I'm not familiar with Registeel. But he gets the Thunder Wave off on me, so at this point it's like, okay, I have a 25% chance to not move and then immediately don't move. So that's one turn of full paralysis. I really think Pokemon should make it so that that turn I can't get paralyzed. I've already made my move before I was paralyzed. The paralysis should like come into effect the turn after, I think. But anyway, I go for my Elite Seed again. There's not really much this Registeel does to me, to be honest. He paralyzed me, which is unlucky. I have the 25% chance to not move, but you know, now my Gyro Balls hit marginally harder because I'm even slower. But he's gonna swap out, knowing that Registeel can't do much more to me, into this Landorus. It's gonna intimidate me. So he's sitting at about, I'd say 76, 77%. I'm gonna go for a Gyro Ball and bring him down to like 51. So even after Intimidate, my Gyro Ball does 25% out. There's some rolls in there. And he's gonna go for a Defog and get rid of all the rocks that have been set up over the past couple turns. And I'm just gonna go ahead and knock off Landorus's leftovers too. I don't want to deal with leftovers on any of these mons. So he's gonna swap out after that and bring in Raikou. So I'm not sure what this Raikou wants to do with me to me unless he has HP Fire. But I went for I forget. I think I went for another Leech Seed, expecting a switch to just keep some like nagging priority. But I got fully paralyzed again, and fully paralyzed another turn. So I've been fully paralyzed quite often, much more than 25% so far. So right now I'm a little frustrated at the hacks, and I think, to be honest, I'm letting it get to me. The Flame Burn on Lopunny was frustrating because it was literally the first time anything came in contact. And then this Paralysis is just nagging, just giving Chris free turns over and over again. I think there's been three full Paralysis in about 5 turns that Ferrothorn has been out so far, so that may not be true, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty close. So Raikou comes out, and I'm switching out to Yuno. So he predicted my Suicune switch. I'm not going to go into Suicune every single time Moltres is out. I have other answers to Moltres still. So I'm going to go into Yuno, who is Scarfed, and I do not expect that his Raikou is Scarfed. And my Psyshock does about, I'd say like 82%, something like that. And he Shadow Balls, but I live it, and he's gonna swap into something else, likely his Registeel. Registeel was the only thing that really scared Lele. Well, didn't scare Lele, but stopped Lele. That does a little less than 25%. And I'm going to get out of there. So Ferric Oxide comes back out. Unfortunately, this is the best answer I have to Registeel without start popping my setup moves with my Flygon and a burned Lopunny. So without a... I probably could have just gone into Lopunny, but I didn't want to get Thunder Wave. Well, I couldn't get Thunder Wave, so yeah, I should have just gone into Lopunny, looking back at it. Even though I'm burned, a high jump kick will still do significant amounts of damage, especially since it's permanent damage and you can't cover it off. But, you know, that's my mistake. I let too many turns go down to chance of me not moving, or chance of me getting burned, or chance of me picking up KOs on rolls. But he makes a good prediction in Toxics. He's been making predictions all game long. Sometimes they have bitten him because I know he was making predictions and I just don't go out to what he expects. But he's going to go ahead and go into Landorus. I figured he could go into Landorus if he wants. I'm going to Volt Switch, and if that doesn't work out, I'll just go for a Will-O-Wisp. He's going to Intimidate me, and at this point he can go ahead and either U-turn or switch, and just kind of the only benefit he got from those turns is poison, or you can, yeah, take a burn. So he's going to U-turn. It's going to drop me below half, which is going to activate my Citrus Berry. That's going to give me 25% more. Personally, I don't feel that the Citrus Berry was worth it this week. I probably should have just brought some leftovers. The Citrus Berry wasn't that influential. But I'm just going to throw my Will-O-Wisp that lands, and it's going to hit this Registeel. If I wanted to, I could just overheat this Registeel and ensure that it gets KO'd, but then that leaves my Jazz Hands out with -2 attack or -2 special attack and more toxic damage. So I'm just going to go ahead and Volt Switch into my Ferrothorn, which has been kind of stagnant, so figured I might as well use him somehow. Maybe I'll get some Iron Barbs damage. So he throws out the seismic Toss, and I do get Iron Barbs damage. So that plus the burn will pick up the KO on Ready Steel. Now I have Ferric Oxide out here still. I'm still going to play as if he is going to move every turn. I can't play like he's not going to ever move, so I'm going to continue to use Ferric Oxide. So you see he's at about 25%. We saw my Gyro Balls do about 25% earlier. So it's a roll for KO if I land a Gyro Ball. He's going to defog the rocks away. I'm going to go for Gyro Ball here, and I get fully paralyzed for a 4th time, I think. So I'm just going to recover off this damage. He got a free defog. Absolutely no cost to him. He's going to go for an Earthquake. So like, okay, Earthquake. I'm still going to take this, and I can go ahead and hit him with a Gyro Ball this time. No, I got paralyzed, and now he got a free defog and a free 30-40% on me. So now I can't stay in, and he knows I can't stay in, so he's going to U-turn out as I swap. But either turn, if I moved a Gyro Ball, I had a chance to KO. But unfortunately, I never moved. So Kamikaze takes that pretty well. Kamikaze is physically defensive again this week to handle Landorus and a couple other threats. And Raikou comes out. So Raikou is living on like 10% right now, which is a pretty big point to make at the end of this match. Raikou is very, very low. Well, I'm going to swap out to Jazz Hands. Jazz Hands is going to take a Thunderbolt. Since this is a Specs Raikou, Jazz Hands isn't going to take it fantastic. And poison damage is going to come through. At this point, I'm probably just going to end up having to take let Jazz Hands go down. He's going to swap into Landorus, which was very interesting to me. I think I don't know. But since I know he's in Thunderbolt, or locked into Thunderbolt, I'm going to bring out Goggles, who would have had a free chance to set up a Dragon Dance on that Raikou if he went for Thunderbolt. He's going to swap out of Landorus, and I'm going to set up my Dragon Dance just as I intended. So now I am +1. I brought Fire Punch on Flygon this week. I think I wanted to bring Fire Punch and Rock Slide and Earthquake, but I did not bring Rock Slide. I brought Outrage instead. It was just like a rushed move I made, but that Fire Punch does over 60%, so it does about 63%, which to me says that he is full HP with no defense. So he's probably full HP, full attack, or he's one of those full HP, full special defense Booloos. But he sets up a Swords Dance, which was a mistake on his part, so Fire Punch would have picked up the KO. I'm going to Fire Punch this Moltres, which obviously doesn't do much, and this is when I was saying I would normally have had Rock Slide, but I just, as a rush in my preparation, brought Outrage instead. I think Outrage I just did because it hits a lot of things relatively hard. I think Landorus resists most of my moves if I did that, so I didn't want to do just having only Fire Punch to Landorus. But he takes a bunch of my HP with a Horn Leech. And his terrain disappears. And I am confused here. I can land a Fire Punch and get him very, very low to pick up a KO, but I hurt myself in confusion. So I don't know if that might be like a 50. I'm not sure about confusion chance, but if I break out and land a Fire Punch, I do 60-some% to him, and he would be extremely low, and then I could make a more aggressive switch into like Tapu Lele to kill something. But unfortunately, that's not what happened, and I'm just gonna have to go ahead and bring out a more passive Pokemon and just overheat here. Attack falls. and I'm at 17%. This Tyrantrum can basically do what he wants to me. He outspeeds me. At this point, I figure he outspeeds me just because I don't have any speed investment. This is a defensive Rotom this week. I just kind of brought it to Will-O-Wisp things, overheat, and then give switch priority. So I come into 3Cs who still KOs through this burn on Tyrantrum, and he knows that, so he's going to swap into Bulu. So, like I said, if I landed that Fire Punch earlier, he wouldn't have this switch into Bulu. He would be at like 10, 15%, and this high jump kick, even though I'm burned, would have picked up the like 10, 15%. Even if it didn't pick up 10, 15%, I would have then had another hit to hit Bulu because I outspeed it. So regardless, if that Fire Punch landed, if I didn't hit myself in confusion, Bulu would have been in a much worse position. Especially since I can just Ice Punch him. But he's going to Synthesis up. And I'm kind of in trouble at this point. I don't really have a whole lot to do to this Bulu now that 3Cs is burned. My Flygon is down from hitting himself in confusion because I brought Outrage. Yeah. So Landorus comes out to further lower my attack with Intimidate, but even doing so, I can still hit an Ice Punch and pick up the KO. So Landorus is gone, no more Intimidate on his team, no more Defog on his team. But he still has this fat Bulu that I don't have a whole lot of answers for because my Rotom is down, my Lopunny is burned, and my Flygon is down. So what I figure I need to do here is I need to get him to use Superpower, because I know he has Superpower. I need to get him to use Superpower and bring himself to around between 75 and 82% or something like that. I have little grid marks on my DS that show percentages, so I needed to get him in that range. But anyway, I needed to get him to use the Superpower, and he does, so this is something that put him in some trouble. I'm not sure if he knew. So with this set that I know he's running, it's got to be full HP, no defense, or very little defense. And he's sitting at about 85% right now. I've looked at it over and over again. He's at 85%. So looking at the calc with -1 defense from Superpower, my Psyshock in my terrain has, I think, about a 60% chance, or maybe a little less than that, to pick up the KO. So I have a higher chance of KOing than he has of living from this Psyshock. And I just get one of the lower rolls and he lives. Picks up the kill on Yuno. Even though he lives and picks up the kill on Yuno, I can still switch into my Lopunny to pick up this KO, but it was just really unfortunate that I got that low roll. If Lele picks up that kill on one of the, if I got a lucky high roll, Lele sweeps the rest of his team. I don't know why I'm rolling the dice in a match that's been like this. I've been fairly unlucky the whole match. But I pick up the KO, and here comes Tyrantrum. So this is what I was talking about when I was talking about preparing for teams and stuff. I was really preparing for a lot of like his new additions and things I thought he'd bring. I didn't think he'd bring a Scarfed Jolly Tyrantrum, because a Jolly Lopunny would still outspeed that, as well as a lot of my other Scarf Mons or things like that, but he did anyway. Kamikaze comes out here, so I'm losing pretty bad, but I know I can still win, because I can take 2 Outrages, set up a Tailwind on the first turn, and he gets a crit. So he gets this 6% chance to crit to basically stop my clutch. I was sitting at 162 HP while I was setting up my Tailwind, and looking at damage rolls, the highest damage he can get without a crit is 79, so he could have got 2 max damage rolls and I still would have lived. And basically the crit gave him the win at the end, so it's really unlucky. And he got 3-turn Outrage without confusion, which is also unfortunate for me, but I mean, not that big a deal. The bigger deal was the crit, because I would have lived 2 Outrages, set up my Tailwind on the first turn, used 2 turns to kill Tyrantrum, and then Raikou would have come in, who I outspeed because he's Specs, not Scarf. and Raikou was sitting at about 10%, so my Scald would have picked up the kill on Raikou. So that crit was actually really huge. And it always sucks to lose, but it really sucks to lose when a lot of hacks happen. Obviously, I've made a lot of mistakes in that match too, but even with the mistakes, I had a very good opportunity to clutch that out, and then the 6% chance crit came in. I really should have brought like a cleric to the team. I really shouldn't have sped crept for an adamant Tyrantrum after a Dragon Dance, because that let his Tyrantrum outspeed my Lopunny. That was a mistake, but you know, live and you learn. This is kind of a lesson to not take Pokemon too seriously, because even though I had the better matchup and everything, sometimes the Hacks God smiles in other people's favor. But anyway, I'm 3-2. I take my first loss in 4 weeks or something. It sucks, and I just want to get back on the winning track. So whoever my next opponent is, I think it's Jake. Hope you're ready. I'm gonna be pretty upset and want to win very badly next week. So I'll see ya.